तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपं कदामह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुवैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजष्टहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं विशिदाधार कृष्णपादं सकलगुणिता श्रीकान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धुपते गोपेश नमोऽस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृषभानुसुते पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद प्रिय अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम हरे हरे. In the Bhagavatam, the first two sessions, the summary, it was almost 2 hours, and I'll probably finish it 2 minutes. The summary so far is that Narada Muni was trying to figure out who is the best devotee in this world. And today we are going to discuss a little bit more on that topic about Narada Muni trying to figure out who's the best devotee in the world. And when he was trying to figure it out, first he went to a place called Prayag, which is nothing other than Allahabad of today. It is at the confluence of the Ganga and the Yamuna. And there he saw a nice Brahmana who was a wealthy Brahmana. And this nice wealthy Brahmana came with his Shalagrama Shila. He offered nice worship. And after offering nice worship, he used all his riches to do the puja in terms of offering prasadam, having nice jewelry, nice clothes, etc. He offered all of that. He sang, then he took all the prasadam, he distributed to everybody. First, he offered it to all the devotees, then the brahmanas, even the dogs and the crows. And after that, he finished his worship. And Narada Muni said, who can be a greater devotee than you? You are using everything that is available with you in service to Supreme God. Following that, that Brahmana said, I'm just a dying person here. I have some money, I have doing a little bit stuff. But if you go to the southern kingdom, there is a king in the southern kingdom who uses the entire resources of his kingdom. When his kingdom is vast and he has a nice deity. I have a Shalagrama Shila. He has a nice deity. And that deity he worships very opulently. Everybody comes there to basically serve that deity. The entire apparatus of the kingdom is meant to serve the deity. So you should go there. He's a greater devotee. And when Narada Muni goes to that kingdom, that he meets the king and he starts glorifying the king. You are such a wonderful king. You, because of your devotion, all of the population in this kingdom, they're all getting engaged in serving the deity. You are the greatest devotee because it's not just you who are practicing something, you're making everybody practice it. And anybody who comes to your kingdom, they are not going hungry. Everybody is given the prasadam from the, which is offered to the deity. The king says, I am just a tiny little king. And of this in a country called Bharatavarsha, in a small planet called Earth. Indra is the king of the demigods. He is a much greater devotee than me because he not just has a bigger kingdom, but he utilizes all the different adipatis, like Chandra, the moon god, Surya, the sun god, the wind god. He uses all of them in controlling the world so that people can render some spiritual sadhana. So he ensures that everybody gets a suitable body so that they all can practice some form of spiritual sadhana. Not everybody is a devotee. So he is a greater devotee. So then Narada Muni goes to Indra. When Narada Muni goes to Indra, Again, Indra says, I am just a tiny person here. I have done so many mistakes in my life. I have been haughty at times. I have been lusty at times. How can I be a great devotee? I'm just doing my job right now. I'm just trying to survive. Better than me is mine and your father, Lord Brahma. He takes care of the entire creation. I have just one Swargaloka. He has the entire creation with him. The entire, I mean, like the different lokas are the planets beneath the earth in one sense, called the Thalas, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Tala, Tala, Rasatala, Patala. Then the Urva, Swargaloka, Mahajana, Tapasatya. All of these are under his care. And he is taking care of the service to the Supreme Lord to take the souls who have come to this material world and somehow guide them to the spiritual world. He's a great devotee. Then, when he goes to Brahma, Brahma says, well, I am not the right one. The one whom the Supreme Lord is really pleased with is Lord Shiva. And we discuss something about Lord Shiva. Then, when uh, Narada Muni goes to Lord Shiva, Lord Shiva says, I'm just an ordinary person here. But there is, so it's doing the transcription here. Like, just a minute, I have to wait for a few seconds. So, when Narada Muni asks Lord Shiva, while continuing with the same conversation earlier, when Narada Muni asks Lord Shiva, I mean, not Nisara says to Lord Shiva that you are the greatest of the devotees. He points out to Prahlad Maharaj. Why? Because, according to Lord Shiva, Prahlad Maharaj's devotion was so great that the Supreme Lord took an incarnation to come for him. It is not that for Lord Shiva, Supreme Lord took an incarnation or something like that. And he says, in fact, many times I have given boons. That is, Lord Shiva is saying that he has given boons to the demons. And because of that, Krishna had to step in and set right the mistake. And so he says, nothing like that happened with Prahlad Maharaj. So he is the greatest person. You should, if at all you're searching for the greatest devotee, that is Prahlad Maharaj. So as soon as he heard from Lord Shiva, Narada Muni traveled by his heart. He wished to travel, and the heart, we typically think in terms of the physical heart, but in the scriptures, the heart is actually the innermost seat of the mind, our wishes. So he wished to go to Prahlad Maharaj, and immediately he went to Sutala. So there are the lokas beneath the earth, Atala, Vitala, Sutala. He went to the Sutala lok, and there he saw Prahlad Maharaj, who was meditating on the absolute truth. One important point that needs to be noted here is if we want to meet devotees or if we want to connect with devotees, some of us may say, how I wish I were to meet Sanatana Goswami. How I wish I were to meet Lord Hanuman or Prahlad Maharaj. Or how I wish I were there when Srila Prabhupada was present. Our meeting them comes when we have a heart connection. So what we need to do now is to be connected by heart. And that is the sadhana that we all have to go through right now. Okay. I hope all of you are also writing the notes, not just relying on AI tips. So when Narada Muni came near Prahlad Maharaj, it was something like Narada Muni was at the glass door at the entrance of this room here, and Prahlad Maharaj was here. And gradually Narada Muni walked from that door to the place where Prahlad Maharaj was sitting. But Prahlad Maharaj is deeply engrossed in his meditation. Many of many devotees, practicing devotees, think that meditation is not the right method. It is Bhakti Yoga the right method. So what is Bhakti Yoga the right method? According to many devotees, they think that one should chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one should sing Kirtan, and that is Bhakti. What is Prahlad doing here? He is meditating on the absolute truth. That is not the right method. But actually, if you read the Bhagavad Gita carefully, in the 12th chapter, Krishna says, amongst all the devotees, that devotee who can always think of me within me, he is the greatest. And here we have Prahlad Maharaj, who is that greatest devotee in one sense, who is able to see the Lord within himself. And by the time Narada Muni comes to him, it takes him some time for Prahlad Maharaj to realize. He felt somebody coming, but he was fully inwardly focused on the Supreme Lord, and it took him some time to come to senses. That was the depth of his focus on the Supreme Lord. Most of us, when we try to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we have what is called as a roving eye chanting. Our eyes are here. We look at everything that is happening around us, except to hear the. But Prahlad Maharaj's focus was not like that. With great difficulty, he had to come out of his focus. For us, with great difficulty, we have to focus. So there are differences between very nice devotees and us. So here comes Prahlad Maharaj and Narada Muni to meet Prahlad Maharaj. And what happens when they both meet each other? I have to pause here for a moment. Give me 5 seconds or 10 seconds. As soon as Prahlad Maharaj opened his eyes, Prahlad Maharaj tried to pay obeisance to Narada Muni. Why? Because Narada Muni was the devotee from whom Prahlad Maharaj heard about the Supreme Lord while he was in the womb of his mother. So Narada Muni is his guru. And yet, Narada Muni was trying to pay obeisance to Prahlad Maharaj. Because Lord Shiva has said Prahlad is the greatest devotee. So we have typically a notion that this person is senior, that person is junior. If I am senior to him, if I am the one who has been the cause of this person's growth, the other person should come and offer me respect. But you see the example of Narada Muni as a guru. He is not looking for respect from Prahlad Maharaj. He is not thinking that I am the cause of the of devotional service for Prahlad Maharaj. All that he is saying here is Lord Shiva has said Prahlad Maharaj is great. He has totally forgotten the fact that he was instrumental for Prahlad to become a devotee. See, you are a great devotee. And Narada Muni tries to pay obeisance to Prahlad Maharaj. And when Prahlad tries instead to fall at the feet of Narada Muni lifts him up. And then he says, my dear Prahlad, you overcame thousands of obstacles. You put up by your father, and yet you survived in spite of the severe obstacles and torture that your father inflicted upon you, and you continue to be a devotee. That is your greatness. The particular word that is used is Upadrava Dharuna Vigna. Upadrava Dharuna. The, yeah. The word Upadrava means outrageous. Dharuna is terrible obstacles. And he says there are thousands of obstacles. What we hear in the Srimad Bhagavatam is typically one set of obstacles only, which is Hiranyakashipu tried to kill his son by throwing him beneath the feet of big elephants. Hiranyakashipu threw Prahlad among large huge, fearful snakes. Then Hiranyakashipu also tried some destructive spells. Then he heard Prahlad from the top of a hill. Then he conjured up some illusory tricks. He administered poison. He starved Prahlad, 5-year-old boy. He exposed him to severe cold, winds, fire, water, and he also threw heavy stones to crush him on a 5-year-old boy. And each of these Prahlad survived just because the Supreme Lord protected him in all of these. That's a nice thing in one sense. But what is Narada Muni actually appreciating here? I would like, maybe it's easier for the sake of recording that I read. Sanatan Goswami writes in his own commentary to the Brhad Bhagavatamrta that lesser devotees would not be able to endure as staunchly as Prahlad the severe kinds of distress imposed by Hiranyakashipu. In the face of such torments, anyone not as fully surrendered and absorbed in remembrance of the personality of Godhead would lose the courage and determination to continue serving the Lord. But none of these tests distracted Prahlad from his devotional service. Being solidly fixed in Bhakti Yoga, Prahlad was empowered to preach effectively. The sons of the demon enemies of Vishnu became Vaishnavas by hearing Prahlad's instructions and even just by touching or seeing him. And therefore, Prahlad is glorified as that anyone who touches Prahlad or sees him, symptoms of ecstatic emotions will become manifest in them and they will take up residence in Hariloka. It is further said, upon hearing Prahlad's brilliant words, some people felt an extraordinary sense of detachment from material life and began to shed tears. Others who saw him responded by bowing down to him. Some were amazed to see him playfully laugh and simply stood in groups watching him. All of them were relieved of material contamination. Prahlad delivered ordinary people not only by freeing them from unhappiness, but also by giving them the highest happiness of pure devotional service to Krishna. This is the glory of Prahlad, a great devotee of the Supreme Lord. Again, I have to pause for 1 minute. Sorry. So you are all understanding the story like right so far. Now I want to bring about this still good. It does in 30 seconds.
They'll all start using this. When the teacher is speaking, you can start this app and get the notes.
Already started. Which app do you all use? Pointex. Oh. So the point which we are hearing from what we just heard from Prahlad few minutes ago is Prahlad is from about Prahlad and especially from Narada Muni is that many times, many of you who are children of devotees, you all have been hearing from your parents preach. But what does preaching require? Preaching also requires that one is ready to tolerate difficulties in the service of Krishna. When one is ready to tolerate difficulties in the service of Krishna, then one's preaching becomes effective. If one is trying to be a lazy person or just expecting everything should be arranged for me and then I'm going to go and preach, it doesn't work. People are more influenced by a person's character. The more and a person's character is molded by the circumstances that come to water. So when we are in the midst of challenges, to the extent we derive strength from depending on Krishna, to that extent, Krishna also makes it more uh, visible to others in some way or the other that here is a devotee, be attracted to him. And what are the challenges that we face? Our challenges are not the challenges of Prahlad Maharaj. None of you have parents who are going to throw rocks at you. They may, the worst case, have a tight slap on you. The worst case. But none of your parents are trying to poison you, right? None of your parents are trying to throw you from the top of a cliff. You're all not facing those kind of problems. The problems you all face and I face, and most of us, all of us face together is our own mind. We have no control of our mind. We are in a generation of a lack of focus. We are just driven by instinct and by the scrolling on the screen, one thing after the other. That is our problem these days, right? So, where we need to work upon is how to develop an attraction to Krishna, how to develop an attraction for something that is more eternal rather than something that is very transient. That is what we need to work upon. Okay. So when Narada Muni meets Prahlad, he says there are actually, yeah, nine great qualifications of Prahlad. And the first one is what we just spoke now, that he uh, tolerated thousands of ways by which his father tortured him, and yet he depended on the Supreme Lord. That was the first one. Then he says, Prahlad, you are a great devotee, and you are a far greater devotee than me because when Narsimadev appeared, he caressed you, like he licked Prahlad, like from his tongue he licked Prahlad Maharaj, just like a mother takes care of a child, like a mother lioness takes care of the cub lioness. Some of you like to be around cows. Some people just like to be licked by the cows. There are some of them who are like that. May say, yeah, guys, I don't like it. Some may like it, but there is a sense of affection, especially the calf likes when the mother cow licks the calf, right? So he says, the Supreme Lord came as an incarnation and he even licked you. You are so great. Then the third part, he says, when he came, when, when, when he incarnated as Lord Narasimhadev, he ignored Lord Brahma. He ignored Lord Shiva. He ignored even his own wife, Mother Lakshmi. And he was just looking at you and he was very satisfied with the praises that you were offering him. And while that happened, I am to read this very nice thing. Yes. Narasimhadev actually tells to Lord Prahlad, and this is given in a book called Hari Bhakti Shodhodaya. This is something which is very relevant for all of us as devotees. One day you will all, or any most of the days you come in front of your team, you may pray. And maybe one day the Lord directly in front of you. What to do? Lord Narasimhadev tells Prahlad Maharaj, my dear child, please give up this attitude of fearful respect that your reverence towards me has produced in you. I do not so much like this sentiment in my devotees. Instead, just feel free to express your love for me. Stop. I have to pause here.
You all think better app doesn't require this pausing.
Yeah. Pause.
They might be doing anything.
I'm sorry.
You already recorded in voice, recorded.
That one like that. Yeah. So you problem is because of the rules echo, it doesn't get done properly. So because I'm close to this, you have to. Anyway, let's continue. The Lord Narasimhadev is telling Prahlad Maharaj that the mood to pray to him is not that of fearful respect, but just really express your love for me, whatever it is. Fear is not what he likes, right? In fact, he tells further, when a devotee looks at me without hesitation and speaks to me affectionately, my pleasure grows with every new moment. Although I'm eternally free from all limitations, such behavior binds me with ropes of love. Although I'm unconquerable, my devotees can conquer me. Although I am subject to no one's control, I become their subordinate subject. I belong only to him who has shown his love for me by giving up all affection for family and possessions. And such a devotee also belongs to me. Neither he nor I have any other true friend. My desires are always automatically fulfilled. But I take various words in this world just to bestow on my devotees the satisfaction of all their desires. So please tell me what you would like from me. So saying, don't hesitate, don't be formal. And that's something that we all have to learn. Learn prayers in which it's more informal. Learn prayers where we learn to glorify the Supreme Lord. Learn prayers, or at least, if not, don't learn prayers. Express, my dear Lord, I like this thing in you, but I also have this thing in me. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to take me out of it? Be honest with the Lord. Have a nice conversation with Him when you come in front of the ladies. You want to say something? Microphone. I'll repeat. Yes. Yes. It's not like he does not like it as much as the informal one. There are gradations. Yeah. Mhm. Correct. What pray to the Lord and or no. So the question is it most of us do pray to the Lord out of fear? Is it a mistake? No. We start where we are. We are fearful of some things in this world. We have it's not so much of a fear as an aspiration. I wish this happens. I am not feeling fulfillment. If this thing happens in my life, I will feel fulfilled. Can you please fulfill this? It's not. Sometimes we have, okay, so the question you're posing is sometimes we have a fear towards the Lord also. Yeah, fearful towards the Lord. Like, there are many situations where it is not we are fear toward, we are fearful towards things bad happening. Or like, for example, like hurting someone. It is not like we are fearful that we are hurting them. We are in a fear that consequences. Okay. Sometimes we are fearful that we knowingly or unknowingly we commit mistakes. And what is the consequence of that karma? Especially if you read the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, a lot of consequences are spoken. Sometimes the children of devotees have a big problem, which is if I go to a restaurant and eat, I am eating food that is not for devotees. What's the consequence of that? So what's the consequence of eating in a restaurant? Will I go to hell? That's one thing. Sometimes it's like I want to see a movie. What will happen if I see a movie? Right? There's going to be a consequence of it. And then comes even something worse. There are devotees around us who are being very elder to us, but they just don't seem to understand what we have in our mind. And they keep giving us some or the other orders. They keep telling us to do this way or that way. They just don't seem to understand us. And out of frustration, one day if we shout at them, then either they will tell directly or we'll feel inside, did I make a mistake? They will say, if you talk to me like this, you are going to go to hell. And then we think, hell is something far away, but will I fail in my next exam? Right? So at least hell, I can wait for it for next birth, but next exam, I don't want to study this very same subject, which is such a dry subject. I don't want to study it. Right? I have to wait for 40 seconds. Since I mean, I won't say how the parallel thing also works, that one, but I'm comparing it, so I'm waiting for it.
Color skateboards today. They're experimenting something new, so he wants to try it on you.
So we hear of in which Narad Muni saying Prahlad Maharaj is a great person. And the answer to the question that was actually posed that uh, we feel afraid what will happen, what are the consequences. So we come to the Lord saying that please protect me from the consequences of that activity that I did. That is a very good starting position. In fact, you are going to hear very carefully, you're going to hear that Prahlad Maharaj exhibits that very same attitude. This is what Narada Muni is saying. But Prahlad Maharaj is feeling sad for something. you will hear about it. So if you are on the right track, if you feel so, you're very much on the right track. So the fourth point, which Narad Muni tells about the greatness of Prahlad Maharaj is that Nrsimhadev offered him the supreme abode, and yet Prahlad Maharaj rejected it. And I want to read a particular section here. Oh yeah, okay, I read that. So the fourth point was Prahlad Maharaj is so fulfilled in his relationship with the Supreme God that he rejects even eternal abode, something even a greater abode, Satyaloka, all of that he rejects, knowing that it was that Satyaloka and something better than Satyaloka was what Dhruva Maharaj wanted. Correct? But then he says the fifth point. You rejected all the other opulences, etc., but you accepted the kingship of the Daityas. Because his father was dead, he had a kingdom, and there were all these Daityas and Danavas who were present, the demons who were present. He accepted the kingship as a service. Somebody who is taking a responsibility in spite of knowing it is a tough thing, he has a greater taste. He can be with the Supreme Lord always. And yet, he has taken up a service where the Supreme Lord is not there with it, in physically. Isn't that the case with our acharyas like Srila Prabhupada and others? They had the opportunity to be with Krishna, but they are here with us. They came to this material world just for us. Our gurus are like that. I mean, that's the great opportunity that they have. And the particular phrase which Narada Muni says is just for Jana Uddriti, for the welfare of people and preaching. So many times we think that we are separated from the Lord, but we should note that we are separated because we have a service. The service is to glorify the Supreme Lord. Preaching, typically, people understand preaching means I give a class, 10 people listen to it. That is not necessarily preaching. That is an aspect of preaching. That is a method of preaching. True. Preaching is also living a life according to the message given by our acharyas. Preaching also means being satisfied in the circumstance of our life, knowing well that no circumstance in life can match what the benediction Supreme Lord wants us. Preaching also means not wanting respect from others and instead being willing to give respect to others. Preaching also means having a taste for the holy name. And when others observe, they feel, this is what I want to follow. So there's a nice statement. Preach, preach, preach. Preach all day. And if required, speak. Right? Speaking is not the only way, it is the last resort. The first is preach by your character, preach by your actions, not thinking somebody else is going to look at it, but just because that's the way you are there in relation to the Supreme Lord. Finally, if required, speak something. So that is why, if you look at many great acharyas, when they speak, they don't use too many words. Many of us think preaching means I have to tell a nice story, and then I have to tell the moral of the story, and then I have to tell the second story, then the moral of the story, and then connect all of the morals of the story to a verse in the scripture. That is what we commonly think. That is probably the way children are taught moral science in schools. And we continue the same thing when we go for preaching. But that is not exactly the method. You hear Srila Prabhupada, you hear many acharyas, very purposeful and choice and the choice of the words they use and the message that they give. They are not there to titillate the audience or to to make them feel high. Give them some story and then they'll feel, oh wow, what a nice story. Everybody talia bajao, clap, clap, clap. And then the next story, etc. It is required sometimes. Oh, sorry, 30 more seconds. It is required many times in many cases that when we are speaking to very new audience, you'll have to give all stories, etc. You may think so, but the message that is coming here from Prahlad Maharaj is even the demons, whose first of all their parents were demons, they themselves had demoniac tendencies, but just by observing the ecstasy of Prahlad Maharaj, they all got interested. Which means what? We have to put into action and come to the stage of ecstatic love of God. Because we are not able to put effort to that extent, because we do not have patience for that, sometimes we try to do shortcuts. It's okay. Do shortcut or long cut, whatever be that, do some service to Krishna. That's one. So we have heard so far that he ha- five ways in which Narada Muni says Prahlad Maharaj is great. Then there's a sixth way. Some of you, and it's a story actually. Many of you may not know the story. Prahlad Maharaj once went in search of the Supreme Lord who was called as Pitavasa. Pitavasa means he had his yellow garments, and it was a particular incarnation of the Supreme. Somebody told him there's a particular incarnation of the Supreme Lord who's present now. Why was he doing that? Because Narasimhadev appeared, and after he appeared, he disappeared also. And Prahlad Maharaj was along with all his demoniac citizens, and he was trying to bring them into good consciousness. And he felt a separation from the Supreme Lord. And somebody said, Supreme Lord has appeared as Pitavasa. So he went to the place near Badrinath. It's called Badri Vishal also. And in search of this person. And he saw an ascetic with yellow clothes and a bow. But Prahlad Maharaj was also the ruler of the land. And then he felt an ascetic should not have a bow in his hand, which means this person is actually a fraud. He is posing himself as an ascetic, but he is also hunting. An ascetic should not live by hunting. So I should not allow such people in the kingdom. And so he fought against this person. He didn't fight with this person for half an hour or 1 hour, not even for 1 day or 2 days, but for 1,000 years he fought against. The fight went on for 1,000 years. And at the end of it, he got very tired. Of course, they used to fight in the day, and in the night time, they did used to fight. So the one day, after 1,000 years, it was night time. He woke up the next day morning and he prayed to the Supreme Lord. He had a deity form of the Supreme Lord, and he prayed to him. And he said, "My dear Lord, please reveal yourself unto me." And so, and as he was doing this puja, he took a garland and he put on his deity form. And immediately, this Pitava, this person who was in a yellow garment, but with a bow in his hand and arrows and quiver of arrows, etc., he came with that very same garland. That garland went away from the deity he was worshipping and it went to this person. And then he revealed that I'm that very same person who you wanted to see. You wanted to see me? I was there in front of you for 1,000 years. You asked me this much, I'll give you much more. But then Prahlad Maharaj said, My dear Lord, but I'm also a king. I made a vow at the beginning of the fight that I am going to defeat you. I made a vow. But then now how can I defeat you? You are the Supreme Lord. So then the Supreme Lord, Puspita Vasa said, Jito Asmi. For you, I am always defeated by you. Where is the case of that I will defeat you? I am always defeated by my devotees. Take it that way. Your word has come true. Jito Asmi. So that kind of a Supreme Lord who says, I'm defeated by you is your Supreme Lord. You are such a great devotee. That's what he was telling Prahlad Maharaj. Okay. Then, then he says, it's not just that he came first as Narasimhadev, second time he came as a Vasa. He comes even for your grandson, for Bali Maharaj. He came as Vamanadev for your grandson. Right? And there is something that's important that I want to read from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is quoted in the uh, commentary here. It's 8. It's Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 23, verse 6. Yeah. And let me try that 30 seconds gap.
Anybody wanting to summarize the five great qualifications, Prahlad?
Yeah. Nice. Anybody can, yeah, you don't have AI notes with you now. Great. Yes. Yeah. Before I start the next, please summarize it. Madhav Chitra. I'll start with Madhav Chitra. He has written the book. First one is tolerance. Very good. Dora did it right. Next. Focus. Focus. Focus.
Next, Prahlad
Meditating.
Maharaj.
Huh? That's meditating. That's part of the first one. Okay. That's first one. Meditating is second. Next. I mean, sorry, being like a bad mother. Second. Next. Great. Okay. Next.
He rejected all the opulences and accepted the kingship of.
All the opposites.
He came for his grandson also. And this Prita.
Narada Muni is talking about the glory of Prahlad Maharaj, that even his grandson, Bali Maharaj, was able to see the Supreme Lord. There is a particular verse which Prahlad Maharaj explains while offering prayers to Lord Vamanadev. It is given in Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 23, Text 6. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are universally worshipped. Even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva worship your lotus feet. Yet, although you are such a great personality, you have kindly promised to protect us, the demons. I think that such kindness has never been achieved even by Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. What to speak of other demigods or common people? And here we see that the demons are getting what even the others are not getting. It is we, sometimes we label others. He's a good person, he's a bad person. God will protect this fellow, God will not protect that fellow. But if there is one person who has done something nice for Supreme Lord, even though his descendants do something bad, Supreme Lord still comes to protect them. So the greatest thing that we can do for our descendants and even for our forefathers is being a devotee. Because the Lord feels um, obliged to take care of the forefathers and the descendants. Because otherwise, if the devotee were not to be in the relationship with the Supreme Lord, what would that person do? He will try to earn money in this world, and with that money, he will take care of his children, and he will try to get some influence in this world. With that influence, he will try to do something for his future generations. But the person has left all of that. So the Supreme Lord said, "You left it. I will take care of." Okay, that's the way it works. Next, he also says in the Skanda Purana, it is said the, the sage Durvasa, he tells Lord Vamanadev to come to Dwaraka. At that time, Vamanadev says, Paradhino asmi viprendra, bhakti krito asmi na anyata. He says, Paradhino, I am subservient. I'm not at all independent. Adhina, I'm dependent on others. Who? The devotees. Because I am purchased by pure devotion. And by that alone, I am now the order carrier of Bali. So when Durvasa Muni came to Sutala Loka once, he told Vamanadev, you please come with me. Bali Maharaj said, I mean, like Vamanadev said, I am already under the orders of Bali Maharaj. If you want me to come, you ask Bali Maharaj. That is the nature of the Supreme Lord. We often don't hear about this, especially when we hear narrations from other faiths. This level of detail, this level of detail of uh, the dealings of the Supreme Lord with his devotees is given only in these scriptures. And most of us haven't even heard it. Sanatan Goswami bringing little bits and pieces from all the scriptures for us, and he's giving it to us. Okay. After saying all of this, Narada Muni said, Prahlad, I intend to stay with you. I have been cursed a lot, and so I have to remove my effect of my curses. Taksha cursed me, saying that you took my sons and make them into devotees, and now I cannot propagate this. I mean, I cannot fill this world with more progeny. I curse you that you are never going to stay in one place. So he says, I want to remove the effect of all these curses by just staying with you. And herein we see the humility of even great devotees like Narada Muni. They were cursed. By the dint of his tapasya, by the dint of his attraction of the Supreme Lord, he can just say, let it go. He can even counter curse Daksha also, but he didn't do that. When we go to an auto person and ask him how much is the cost, how when you come there, that fellow will say for 30 rupees, he will say 200 rupees. What is the first thing that comes to our mind? We feel like taking an object and hitting him. We use the choicest of the words in our vocabulary to scold him, right? All these things come to our mind. But what did Narada Muni say to Daksha? He didn't tell anything like that. He accepted it. It takes spiritual maturity to tolerate circumstances of life. And to honestly say, I'm being cursed, let me work on it. Right? Many times when somebody forget cursed, even if somebody were to scold us, we try to retort. So for Meghana and Naman, I am trying an unpaid version of AI software, so I have to pause every 5 minutes. And there is also a punishment for those who come late to the session. The punishment, especially for Naman, is you have to come and sit right next to me. Come here, because you're far away. Come here, come sit right next to me. Next time, Meghana, you will also be going to sit next to you. Come, you sit here. So, after these 9 different ways in which Narada Muni glorified Prahlad Maharaj then says to Narada Muni, does he accept all of these 9 and he says, I'm the greatest devotee? No, he doesn't. Just like each and everybody before whom Narada Muni approached, they all said, no, I am not the greatest, somebody else is the greatest. But in this case, the case of Prahlad Maharaj, there's a laundry list, a big laundry list of 9 items which Narada Muni spoke. And Prahlad Maharaj, for these 9 items that he is given there, he comes up with 10 different ways in which he says, I am not great. First one, he says, when Lord Narsimhadev came to me, I was just a child. There was no power that I had. It's not like I was a great devotee. You made me a devotee. You made me, oh Narada Muni, you made me attracted to the Supreme Lord. It was because of you that Narsimhadev came. It was not because of me. So the qualification is not mine. That was number one. And number two, this is something very similar to many devotees, what they say. He says, Narsimhadev came to protect me. But after he came to protect me, there was no service for me. He was not at all around me. I couldn't do any service. He came sometime. He was there for a few seconds or a few minutes or a few hours, and then he vanished. You look at Hanuman, so much service he rendered to Lord Ramachandra. Today is the one way you can celebrate as the Vijayadashmi. That's why I thought let's talk about Prahlad and Hanuman. Give it time. I think we have time to speak about Hanuman. So the second way he says, I didn't have the opportunity to render service. Mine was more passive. Lord came, he protected me. That's it. And this is something that we all have to learn. Many times we come in front of the deity and we keep praying to the deity, my dear Lord, somehow or the other, please make me pass my exam. If you don't make me pass my exam, also it's okay. That campus interview is going to come 3 days from now. Get me a job. Even if you don't, even if I'm okay, whichever company you give me, just please ensure 1 crore salary. I don't even want 1 crore salary for the rest of my lifetime. You can just somehow or the other keep it for 3, 4 years, that's all. And then one flower will fall from the deity's head or hand, it will fall down, and we feel very happy. Right? I mean, our meaning of wanting reciprocation is that we want at this level. Prahlad Maharaj is saying it's not just a flower came, the Supreme Lord himself came. He manifested. And yet, he says, I couldn't render service to. But he is foregoing the fact that the Supreme Lord gave the service of, okay, you be in the kingdom here and you make all of them devotees. That was the service given to him. But he's saying, no, I want you. Many devotees say, my dear Lord, I want my spiritual master service. I want personal service. I want personal service of the Supreme Lord. That is the mood which Prahlad is having. But We also see one part of it here. Although wanting this service, the personal service, he is not envious of others like Hanuman. He's not saying Hanuman got it, why I didn't get it. He's saying I am not great enough. That's why I didn't get it. I need to qualify myself. And this is the difference between, especially for great devotees and normal people. Great devotees strive for excellence. Normal people try to compete. Competition always requires I compare myself with somebody else. Excellence is I compare myself with what I had yesterday, day before yesterday, or 5 years ago. Where am I in my journey from 1 year, 2 year, 3 years ago? Let me try to be something better. I haven't received this, let me try it. But competition is I need the external trigger. Only if somebody does better, then I will try to want to do something better. Only if I'm better than somebody else, then I feel happy. That is the problem with competition. We have to strive for excellence and not competition. So this is one part. Let me just here again a 30-second break. That's okay. But I have a point which I want to say. We have 15 more minutes, and let's see how much I can cover. Okay, continuing here. Um, One of the points we have to learn from this manner in which Prahlad Maharaj is saying, I'm not having service is that whenever in our own lives we feel that we get to know that we are getting more and more services for Krishna, we should know that it is Krishna is pleased with them. We should not shy away from services. Most of us shy away from services. And many of you, as young students, face a different kind of a problem. You have study, you have some sadhana which your parents sometimes impose on you. Sometimes you like to do it. Sometimes your parents say you'll have to chant, and you say, "Oh my God, I have to chant also," something like that. And then not everybody identifies themselves when chanting as a means to be connected to the Supreme Lord. Some of them identify with kirtan. Some of them just identify to coming to a temple and spending time. People may think, hey, how is that any spiritual? But some people in the young generation, they just feel the vibes in the temple are nice. I like the spiritual vibes, and I want to be with my friends in the midst of that spiritual vibes. Sometimes it's like that. So different people have different aspirations. But in the case of service, what is it that is the service that we should take? But the priority of a service is that service which a guru or a sadhu gives. After that comes what I like. That's the first priority. But does it mean that everybody in this world is a sadhu? No. Many times, somebody who's elder alone is thought of as a sadhu. Not necessarily. A sadhu is a person to whom you have seen that from the scripture, this person is following the tenets of the scripture carefully. I like what he says, and I like to submit to him. There has to be a two-way relationship with the sadhu. It is not a one-way relationship. That person says, and I just follow. One should also open about oneself to that sadhu. Then one can follow what the sadhu says. Where there is no two-way relationship, one cannot sustain in that relationship for a long time. So it's important for us to develop that kind of a two-way relationship. So Narada Muni, so Prahlad Maharaj has said two things. Number one, I'm a child, I received power just from you. And number two, although Lord Narasimhadev appeared for me, which was the main thing which Lord Shiva told, but I was not the recipient of service. Okay. Third, he says, Narasimhadev didn't appear just for me. He appeared as in the past time to protect the Devatas who were uh, being, what you call, castigated sometimes and sometimes being oppressed by Hiranyakashipu. He wanted to deliver his very close associates, Jaya and Vijaya. Jaya and Vijaya are very close to him. That's why he came. Mine was a side effect. Mine was not the main effect. And he also had to uphold the words of Lord Brahma. So it is for these things and to display the greatness of devotional service that Lord Narasimhadev appeared. It was not for me. Next, he says, he goes to the next level. In the next level, he says, Narada Muni, you told me that uh, I have been the kingdom of all, I have been given the kingdom of all these Daityas. So Prahlad Maharaj says, one who actually is favored by the Supreme Lord loses opulence. But I have received opulence. What does that mean? I have not been favored with the Supreme Lord. Why does he say so? Let me go to that verse. It's actually given in Canto 10, chapter 27, verse 16. And I would like all of you to go through that verse. I don't think we have time fully to go through it now. And Sudama also tells in Canto 10, chapter 81, text 37, to those who lack spiritual insight and who may succumb to pride, for to such persons also the Supreme Lord doesn't give opulence or wealth. Correct? Why? Because it increases the anxiety for such people and it increases their pride also. And in my own case, I feel that although the Supreme Lord gave it to me, I am always thinking in my mind how to maintain this kingdom. I'm always in this anxiety, how to take care of the administrative affairs, etc. Okay. So these were the four items that Prahlad Maharaj told uh, Narada Muni. Have you all been able to follow so far, or is it too much? You're writing notes? Good. How is it? Is it it's brand new for you? Is it very overwhelming for you? It could be. If I were in your position, it would have been very overwhelming. So continuing further. The fourth point is basically that Prahlad Maharaj is saying only those who are favored by the Lord, they lose all their opulence. What is the lesson for that for us from this? When we don't get extreme wealth, it is good to console ourselves and feel happy to say that the Supreme Lord is actually protecting me. If I were to get more wealth, who knows what I would do? If you look at most people who get a lottery, majority of them in the next 1 or 2 years, they lose all their wealth to the lottery. Those who gradually build up wealth, they are able to sustain it. Those who get a sudden inheritance, they usually squander it. And that is why many big industrialists, they do not allow their children into the topmost position immediately. They make them go from the shop floor and to a middle manager position for several years. Sometimes it goes on for like 10 years. So that they're able to empathize with the people around them and they're also able to get the pulse of the people. You have to learn from the ground and what the situation is. So it's better that when we don't get extreme wealth, we have to console ourselves in some way to say there is a plan of the Supreme Lord for us. But sometimes we feel, I want to earn a lot of money for Krishna. I want to build a nice temple for him. I want to publish a lot of books. I want to print a lot of books for Krishna and give it to people. Or I want to open a lot of schools so that we can speak about Krishna. All those things. Sometimes we have that. And sometimes we feel, I want wealth, but for my own satisfaction. I need to lead a comfortable life. When I get a comfortable life, I will be able to chant Krishna's name. Like there should be a very big altar. Outside the altar, there has to be a nice sofa. I will ensure that the height of the deity is higher, but I will be sitting in the sofa. Along with the sofa, next to me, there has to be a vending machine. See, because when you chant a lot, right, the throat will get parched. So you should get some nice healthy drinks like berry juice, acai juice, and things like that. Because only if you drink healthy juice, we can live for a long time. And we have to chant for a long time, and only then Krishna will manifest himself. So I need money for that. There's a nice song from movie by Shah Rukh Khan. मैं ज्यादा नहीं मांगता बस इतना सा ख्वाब है, something like that. Just so much, I don't want more. So the question that comes is, When do we say that I need money for my own self? And when do we say I'm satisfied? We never, okay, very nice question. Most of us will say we are never satisfied. We always want more. But the principle that comes is as long as we are not purified, we may pray for money. But the moment, but while we are not purified, we have to perform sadhana very sincerely. And that's why we have what's called regulated sadhana. 1.5 hours you chat. Half an hour you do this, that is reading books or hearing a lecture. Half an hour you do arti, you sing kirtan, you apportion time, and one day a taste happens. When that taste occurs, then one gets satisfaction, right? But how do we come to the stage, from the stage that I need money, I need comforts of life, or what we call as creature comforts, right? I need creature comforts, and at the same time, I want to be satisfied with whatever is the Lord gives. The missing link is service. Service builds that sukriti which is required for us to endeavor for pleasing the Supreme Lord and then the satisfaction. So we have to speak like. Okay. So that was this continuation of the fourth point. So the fourth point is about the real favor of the Supreme Lord is only on those who do not have opulence. And how does it apply to us? That's what I was just elaborating upon. Okay. Next comes the fifth point. I have to go to page 300. Let me go to page 300. Uh, Now, there's a very important point which some of you may have a confusion sometimes. But I have to, but philosophically, you will have to understand it now. Keep it in your mind even when you grow up later. Let me start.
The service is connecting what things.
So the service is the one which connects my aspiration for, say, even wealth for Krishna versus the satisfaction with whatever Krishna has given me. It's not necessarily to quit. Continuing further, the fifth point here. Let me read this verse, which is verse number 28 from the chapter 4 of the Bhagavatamrta. पश्यमे राजसम्बन्धात् बन्धुभृत्यादि सङ्गतः सर्वं तत् भजनं लीनं दिग्धीर्मां यत्न रोदिमि. Prahlad Maharaj is saying here, just see how my worship of the Lord has been eclipsed by my attachment to ruling my kingdom and by my ties to family members, servants, and others. For not crying over this in remorse, I should be condemned again and again. He says, oh, I saw Lord Nrsimhadev. I started then ruling this kingdom, but I've become attached to them, attached to my family members, attached to my associates, those who are the generals of the army, etc. I'm getting attached to all of them. So this is something that we all need to be very careful of. Prahlad Maharaj, we should not be looking at Prahlad Maharaj is doing this, but rather, whenever there is an opportunity for us to be deviated away from Supreme Lord, we should be very careful. Oh my God, this I should be careful of. Even the greatest devotee like Prahlad Maharaj is afraid that I am probably getting too attached in this way. I'm not getting attached to the Supreme Lord, but I'm just doing problem solving. That is a problem for us. Okay. So the word that he uses here is bhajanam leenam. Leenam means eclipsed. And the philosophical point that we have to understand is once a person gets into devotional service, if he starts chanting, it will never get extinguished. It can get eclipsed, but it will grow up again. In other words, we may sometimes see a person uh, starting to practice devotional service, and then they do all sorts of nonsensical activities. And then we end up saying, this fellow is a gone case. He is only going to suffer in hell. You should only know that probably this person is being eclipsed right now, his activities. It may not just be for another person, maybe for us alone. There may come a point of time in life where we feel I am very much attracted to things in this world. But just have hope that this is a period when it is getting eclipsed. Pray for a time, daily, earnestly, my dear Lord. I'm getting attracted to everything in this world other than you. Please give me, please give me the strength to come back to you. And He will reciprocate. Okay, that's the fifth point. And part of this fifth point is what Prahlad Maharaj said. For not crying over this in remorse, I should be condemned again and again. And that is something we have to learn. That if we are not able to cultivate attachment for Krishna, we should cry. If we are not able to cry, we should cry that I'm not able to cry. That's important for us. And he also says that by in the point number six, he says, by association with demons, I am inclined to bad scholarship of truth about self. So what is this association with demons have done it? Narada Muni said, you went and saw Badri Vishal, you saw the Nita Vasana and Badrinath, etc. But he's now responding to it. Why did I go and see what happened when I went and saw this Pita Vasana? I started fighting against him. I should have recognized immediately that if I don't have the power, and here's a person who's so emergent, he's none other than the Supreme Lord. I should have recognized. But my association with these demoniac personalities contaminated me to such an extent that I couldn't recognize the Supreme Lord in front of me for 1,000 years. Yeah, I am contaminated here. So even he takes something that was nice spoken by Narada Muni, he's only saying, but look at me, and I was not up to the mark. And he also says, the problem is my philosophical understanding also changed by being with these demons. So the important point that we all have to learn from here is one-time success does not lead to lifetime success. This is what Prahlad Maharaj is trying to tell us. We usually revel in past glories. One time I became a devotee. One time I studied hard and cleared the exam. That we have to clear multiple exams throughout our life. And it is not about a struggle. It is about growing in life. So Prahlad Maharaj is giving a, he is showcasing a path for us. There is a path for growth. Don't be complacent of what happened in the past. Many times devotees they say when they write their Vyasa Puja homage, and I spoke to this about this Vyasa Puja homage also about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Anybody remembers what I spoke about the Vyasa Puja homage?
Yeah.
You remember? Okay, you can tell.
That we usually uh, give the Vyasa Puja homage to Prabhupada by glorifying his achievements. That he, at the age of 70, he went to US. I mean, he went abroad and then he preached. But we should not only look at the achievements, but we should also look at the way in which the devotees serve.
Okay, now we'll not pause this. So one thing that Vyasa Puja achievement is about Vyasa Puja homage is about achievements, but sometimes it is also about my dear Acharya. You came in your life and you changed it. But what about what is happening now? We should be living every day with the Acharyas. We should live every day with the Supreme Lord. And that's important. Okay. So there has to be a lifelong and consistent adherence to scriptures. And to do that, we need the right company. Then comes the seventh point. He says, you told that my grandson, Bali Maharaj, also got the association of Swamandev. Then he tells the next part. But my great grandson is Banasura. Banasura had, I mean, he uh, caused a lot of havoc. He arrested the son of Krishna, and then Krishna had to come and take care of it. So this demoniac quality runs in the blood. It is there in my blood. It went all the way to my great grandson, and the Supreme Lord, you had to interfere to take care of Banasura. And this is very important for us to note that we have to be some, like if you see Prahlad Maharaj, what's happening? He's sorry for what his descendants did. And therefore, it's a lesson for us that we have to put efforts to ensure that even our lineage is not spoiled. It is not just ourselves. We have to create institutions. We have to create frameworks. We have to create a community where the next generation is also able to progress further. That's what we learn from Prahlad Maharaj here. And that's the reason why parents try to train and their children, they protect the children dharmically, uh, sometimes verbally, telling what is right, sometimes what is wrong. And what happens is many times we have to verbally tell principles and we have to speak about it. When it is not verbalized, people do not understand. I'll give an example. Many times, some of you among your young age group, you may be in college and you may like a boy or a girl, and the boy or the girl may be from a different faith. And your parents, the first thing they'll say is, "Oh, why are you marrying a boy or a girl of a different faith?" Right? They get jitters. Why does that? Why do they become jittery? Normal devotees become jittery because if you don't have the right company to practice your faith, more often, more likely, you are going to follow the faith of some other person. And if the faith of the other person is that of eating meat, forget whatever is the notion of God. But if it is that of eating meat, if it is that of not accepting that the Lord can come in the form of a deity, it becomes tough. And especially so for ladies, they tend to follow whatever their husband does. That's just the psycho-physical nature of a lady. And over a period of time, the following generations are going to become effectively godless. In fact, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, given in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that those who are the killer of the soul, especially those who are the meat eaters, it's very tough for them to come closer to getting Krishna Bhakti. And that's why Srila Prabhupada emphasizes a lot on not eating meat. And even if one crosses that impediment, one also has to be there with other persons, especially the spouse or the community, where everybody believes in this common thing called devotion to Krishna. Otherwise, one cannot just sustain it. Just like what Prahlad Maharaj is saying, that being in the association of demons is not easy. It will get degenerated, if not now, the second generation, third generation, or fourth generation from now. Okay. And then he says, you are so great that uh, your grandson, Bali Maharaj is seeing Vamanadev. He says, yeah, that may be fine. But the eighth point here is, Bali may be seeing Vamanadev, and I am staying in the same Sudala Loka where Bali is present, but I am not able to see Vamanadev. I don't have that fortune of seeing Vamanadev, right? So let me go to verse page 308. And Prahlad Maharaj says, wherever one develops an intense desire to achieve the Supreme Lord, there one can obtain him. But the Lord merely residing in a certain place does not grant one this association. Commentary. The personality of Godhead does not give himself away to those whose desires are not absolutely pure. Only perfect love can induce him to reveal himself. If the Lord's presence in a place were a sufficient cause for realizing him, then every living being throughout the universe should already have attained him. Since in his form of stream, Vasudeva, super soul, he is all pervading. In other words, there has there is no shortcut to having an intense desire to have a connection to the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, one cannot have it. Many people just say, I chanted some rounds, and therefore at the end of my life, I'm going to go back to Godhead. No, chanting with intensity is important. Just hanging around by the process of osmosis, things don't work. The, the cultivation of the heart, of one's desire to be there is important. And we may not have it. And the purpose in reading Brhad Bhagavatamrta is to instill that desire in us. Just two more points. He says, Prahlad Maharaj says at point 9, I received a speck of the mercy from Nrsimhadev, but heaps of mercy is bestowed on newer devotees. Who? Like Hanumanji. He's much younger. He came much later, but he got heaps of uh, mercy on him. And many times we even see today that there are disciples of the Guru. Some of them were initiated 20, 30 years ago. and some were initiated now. And those who are initiated now seem to get more mercy than those who are initiated 20, 30 years ago. Why? It's because sometimes the older devotees become complacent. They take it for granted. Sometimes they are not as enthusiastic as they were in the beginning times. And sometimes it also happens that due to age, they are not as energetic. And naturally, the Guru wants disciples who are more energetic, who are enthusiastic, who are not complacent. And sometimes devotees, the older devotees feel, I have already been taught everything. What else is required? It's the same old stuff. They are not able to appreciate newer nuances in the same katha because they are not fixed in their chanting actually. The more one is focused in chanting, one gets greater insight into Krishna Katha. That very same Krishna Katha has deeper insight. But the older disciples, they lose track of that. They become slackened. And so we also feel that the newer devotees are getting more mercy because they have enthusiasm in the right place. So what is the pill or what is the medicine? We should also never become like the old disciple. Enthusiasm should continuously be kindled. Enthusiasm is not something that will come automatically. We have to put effort for enthusiasm. Okay. And finally he says, in my case, Lord Nrsimhadev appeared and left, but in the case of Hanuman, he served Hanuman, that like Lord Ramachandra was present for in front of Hanuman for 13,000 years. And even now, whenever Hanuman is praying to Lord Ramachandra, he still is able to be Lord Ramachandra. So we covered probably, yeah, probably some 50 pages ago. But I had to go slow on it because there were a lot of practical lessons for us. Any comments so far? Madhusandra. Oh, happy birthday, man. Yeah, any comments so far? It's a long session. I would like each of you to write just 3 points, max. At least one, but max three. Your top three or top one takeaway on what you think you are going to apply from this session. That you think you should apply. Okay. Please write it and bring and just send it to me over WhatsApp. Each of you. Okay. So we'll end the session here. Thank you very much. ग्रंथराज श्री भगवतामृता की जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की हिताय गौर प्रेमनते वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः Let me stop the recording.